Scott Jessen. I am the Director of Product Development with Tennant Products. I am here, have the fortunate pleasure of getting a chance to speak with you about supporting your immunity. Can we really actually boost our immunity, or what does that look like? And how do we actually support those things and our immunity with everything from vitamins A to zinc? And then we have a little bit more on top of that. So I'm going to share my screen here and we will dive in. Awesome. So again, today we're going to talk about understanding foundational immunity, vitamins and immunity, everything from A to zinc, and so much more. Let's dive in here. Just a brief overview for everybody who wants to know exactly what's happening. We're going to talk about a little bit about Tennant Products, who we are, a multifaceted approach to foundational health, immunity, why it matters. We're going to talk about vitamins A, C, D, E, and a couple of others. Zinc and selenium, iodine and immunity, nitric oxide, digestive support, and then we will follow things up with a Q&A. One question that we have, though, is how might one person boost their immunity, either his or her immunity? And the question is, can we really do that? Is there one thing that can actually help support that? The answer is actually quite complex. The human body is a complex system. It's kind of a complex answer. And so rather than a simple solution, there are quite a few things that actually need to happen here, and we'll dive into that right now. So at Tennant Products, this is so much more than a job for us. It's our passion. We want to go the extra mile to make sure that we provide the best, the purest, the absolute best ingredients that we can find on the planet. They're therapeutic and nutraceutical grade. Originally, they were only available to doctors and healthcare practitioners. Now we offer them to the general public. We use only the highest quality natural ingredients and the most bioavailable or easiest for our bodies to actually use forms. You won't find synthetic ingredients or toxic fillers or preservatives in our products. We're family owned and operated, and we know that ingredients matter. Whatever we're putting into our bodies is going to have a difference. We're going to talk about that here. We all have overcome our own health challenges, and that same fight and passion that we have to get our lives back is the same fight and passion that we bring to our products. And we want to share that. So this is our passion. We believe that it is your body, it is your life, and ingredients do matter. So let's dive in a little bit. So we're talking about immunity and immune support and how we support this. So let's get into a quick definition here. So what is immune support? Well, a healthy immune system is something that protects the body, creating a barrier that stops antigens from entering the body. If something happens to break through that barrier, then the body needs to defend itself. And it uses this immune system using white blood cells, other chemicals and proteins to help destroy those foreign substances so that it can go on and do its normal processes. So what is the immune system? Well, the immune system is something that has a vital role to protect the body from harmful substances, pathogens, viruses, anything that can make a person ill. It's a complex system with many different organs, cells, proteins. Like I said, it's not one simple solution, although there are a couple things that we can certainly do to give it that extra little bump. And then the question is, well, how do we actually support this? Well, we're going to dive into that. So real quickly, what happens when we get sick? Well, when we get sick, our bodies actually create an imbalance. And this can either be in the gut or it can be elsewhere in the body. We know that about 70% of our immune system actually comes from the gut, from the lining of the gut. There's several studies that actually support that. And so when we get sick, and when there's an imbalance in the body, and when this happens, the body creates a cytokine storm. We've heard all about cytokine storms, but the body basically loses the good bacteria. The pathogens can take over. When the beneficial bacteria come back, then the pathogens can go away. We can do that by helping to replace some of the chemicals and nutrients that our bodies actually produce that they lose kind of in that fight, whether it's vitamin C or vitamin D, or specific probiotics with bacteria. We can do that, but we need to make sure that we're actively able to support that. So the bottom line here is that there's an imbalance. So things are fine, they go awry, and when they go awry, we need to make sure that we can actively support our system. One of the key things, and one of the number one things that we hear people talk about is vitamin D. And vitamin D is absolutely crucial for our immune system. What's interesting about this is that there are a couple ways that you can actually get vitamin D. But what I'd like to talk about is how the body actually processes it. So vitamin D actually, so it'll come from the sun. We're out in the sun. It actually absorbs through our skin. And when that comes in through the skin, there are two types of UV rays, UVA and UVB. And UVB actually converts vitamin D into cholecalciferol. What happens with that is that actually moves in through and sends it in through the liver, goes into the kidneys, creates it into the active form of active D3 into the kidneys, and then moves on into the lung, the bones, and the organs, and then it can continue to do its job. Now, we know that vitamin D is incredibly important, and what's interesting about this is that there's a vitamin D receptor attached to the nucleus of almost every cell in the body, which is kind of crazy. Like when I learned that, I realized, oh my gosh, okay, well, it is significantly more important than what we thought. Now, than just somebody saying, hey, look, your vitamin D levels are low. You should probably actually, go out and go for a walk, get some light. The interesting about this, though, is that we know that we need fat for vitamin D to be able to absorb. So vitamin D, as we saw on the last slide, actually comes from the sun, comes down through the skin, goes into the liver, then processes in the liver. Well, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, and so it needs fat to be able to be used in the body. And if we don't have fat present, then it's not going to work. If your liver doesn't convert, or if you have a cirrhosis of the liver, or something is not functioning well in your liver, and you're not able to process that vitamin D, then that can also lead to a deficiency. So there are a couple of things that can lead on to vitamin D deficiencies. The important thing here is that we need to make sure that we can actually figure out how to supplement that if we're not getting adequate values. And there are some fun facts about vitamin D. So we know that we have to consume fat. It's a fat-soluble vitamin, which is great because our bodies can actually store it for a little while. But we need to make sure that we're able to take fat with that and that we actually work with liver with that. We know that there's a vitamin D receptor attached to the nucleus of almost every cell in the body, which means that if we have an infection or if we have a virus or something that's actually attacking our bodies and attacking those cells, vitamin D is a critical portion of that. And so if our levels are adequate, then our cells are going to have what we actually need to help process that. And if they don't, then we're going to be under distress. But vitamin D helps regulate phosphate and calcium homeostasis. It has to move through the body and through the system, through the liver, through the kidneys, and get into the bloodstream so it actually can do that. So you need to have that functioning liver. It promotes absorption in the calcium through the GI tract. Interestingly enough, if you don't have D3, you'd actually have to take 20 times more calcium. It decreases phosphates, it decreases the parathyroid hormone, and helps with bone reabsorption. Sunlight, we know, is the best form of vitamin D3, but there are actually some other versions that you can take. We know that it's fat-soluble vitamin, and there are several that we're going to talk about here. Vitamins A, D, E, and K are all absorbed well with fat. And fat soluble means that they're going to be stored. It means that we need to take those with fats. If you take them without fats, you're going to have a hard time actually processing that. And then we know that vitamin D helps support healthy bonds, supports healthy bone development and metabolism. It works well with the liver and stored in the liver with fatty tissues. And then the biggest thing of all is that it really helps promote immune system regulation. So absolutely great. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. There was actually a study, it actually just came out about 3 months ago. It's from Ireland, but it's the Irish Longitudinal Study for Aging. And they analyzed vitamin D, and they found that vitamin D with consistent use, sustained use, like either daily or weekly doses of vitamin D were preferred. And it can actually decrease the risk of lung infection by 50%, which is huge, huge. They also found that daily or weekly doses of vitamin D were preferred for sustained health rather than a bolus when you get sick and go to the hospital and the doctor say, hey, look, your levels are low. Let's make sure that we give you, an extra care package of vitamin D. So how can we actually get vitamin D? Well, It's in many of the different foods. The top three foods are fish, beef liver, egg. Cod liver is actually one of the best oils, or you can actually use it from cholecalciferol. That's actually what we use in our Restore. An additional supplementation can be beneficial if vitamin D is in the correct form and has the right cofactors to absorb. So like I said, we want to make sure that we actually have fat that goes along with that. Now, when we look at those cofactors, we know that we have D3. I mentioned calcium earlier. We know that calcium is required for many different functions in the body, for strengthening bones, for teeth, for squeezing our muscles, for cardiovascular regulation and blood clotting. But K2 is a great thing, which is also fat soluble, is a great thing to take along with that. So K2 is beneficial with bone and cardiovascular health. It's critical for the formation of strong, healthy bones. And then it helps keep the calcium out of the arteries to help increase that overall arterial function. So if we're taking D3, it's typically a D3 K2 supplement. And when we're actually looking at our formulas, we want to make sure that we're actually providing D3 with K2. So you will see that in Restore. Next on the list, popular topic right now, NAC or N-acetylcysteine. This is interesting, right? Because when we take a look at N-acetylcysteine, N-acetylcysteine is an antioxidant. It builds up from the amino acid L-cysteine. L-cysteine, if we look at this here, is actually a precursor to glutathione. And we know that glutathione is a master antioxidant in the body. It's something that our bodies actually create. And our bodies actually make N-acetylcysteine in the body in very small amounts. Now, the cool thing about N-acetylcysteine is that it goes from N-acetylcysteine to glutathione to SAMe to brain function. And when we're looking at all of these, you go, okay, well, Scott, hey, that's great. Yeah, I want to make sure that I can have, I'm able to detox, I'm able to clean the cells, I'm able to have methylate well, have a little bit more energy, have awesome brain function. But N-acetylcysteine also helps with brain function. It helps with liver detox. It helps with lung function and respiratory mucus. Also, if you happen to be overdosed on Tylenol and you go to the ER, they'll actually give you an IV of N-acetylcysteine. Now, this is something that helps us detox. It helps support the liver, right? And there was a study about 4 years ago, came out and said when given daily for 6 months, about 600 milligrams twice a day, it didn't decrease the likelihood of contracting the flu-like symptoms, but it did significantly decrease the severity of the symptoms, which were flu-like symptoms, for elderly and at-risk individuals for influenza. 79% of the placebo control contracted flu-like symptoms, while the folks who actually took NAC, 25% of them contracted the influenza symptom or influenza virus with fewer symptoms that lasted a little bit longer. So can we take something that will actually help improve our overall system? It's a complicated system. The human body is a complicated system, but there are a couple of things that we've just looked at that can actually help decrease that, and we've seen that clinically. One of the other things that it does help with is healthy circulation. NAC has been shown to support healthy circulation and help balance blood sugar. So think healthy, clean arteries and veins. It does this by lowering the levels of insulin in arterial walls. Now, the cool thing about this is that when glucose hits the system and the pancreas releases insulin to help balance out the glucose and sugar levels in the body, insulin's great. But in high levels, it can actually be very inflammatory. And so having additional NAC present actually helps lower the chance of being insulin resistant, and it helps improve or decrease that amount of inflammation in the arteries. The other cool thing with this is that it helps with healthy brain function. So if you're looking for that extra little boost for brain function, if we go further down the line, it helps improve function of the neurotransmitters, specifically dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, which is pretty cool. So not only can you have something that actually helps support your system, it can support your brain and circulation as well. All right. So we had NAC, N-acetylcysteine moves down the line, turns into glutathione. Glutathione is one of those things that we know as the master antioxidant. It's the liver's big helper. Our bodies actually make this. If we can methylate well, then we can actually process this. If we don't methylate well, or if we're having trouble with the liver, then we may not actually make as much as we need. So it helps to give a little bit of a boost. And the product that we actually choose is the cetrioglutathione. And we found that it helps stabilize the digestive tract, and it's stable throughout the GI tract. And then studies actually show increased improvement of intracellular glutathione. So it actually helps our bodies actually make more glutathione with Cetria specific products. So this is one of the trademarked ingredients that we use in several of our products. And one of the main reasons for that is that we have the clinical studies that can actually back up the work that goes along that. So we know that NAC actually converts into glutathione, and so we have that, but then we're also helping support with glutathione itself, something that our bodies won't have to go through and actually convert and create. And like I said, we're using this because the studies show increased intracellular glutathione after cetrioglutathione and a positive effect on oxidative stress biomarkers, decreasing inflammation. That's another key point that we're going to hear when we get into all this. Next thing on the list, big ticket item, vitamin C. Now, the interesting thing about vitamin C is that ascorbic acid can work. And we say that, vitamin C is not ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is a distillate, right? It's a piece of the pie. And there are some studies that can show that ascorbic acid actually works well. The difference is if you have whole vitamin C with polyphenols and bioflavonoids and the whole pie, your body can actually recognize it and it can actually digest it better. And so the bowel tolerance or the intestinal tolerance for vitamin C increases dramatically if it's whole vitamin C, not just ascorbic acid. So your body actually knows what to do with. And if you happen to be taking vitamin C in larger amounts orally, and you take whole vitamin C, your body is going to be able to tolerate significantly more. It's interesting because when you look at the studies, the bioactive compounds, for example, polyphenols, play a really important role in reducing oxidative stress and protect against various diseases. As we go through this presentation, you're going to hear polyphenols and bioflavonoids that are coming up across the board. And we know that these sources of natural antioxidants in the human diet mainly include, high quality fruit, good quality fruit juices. And we know that when we have those sources from whole vitamin C, goji berries, wild rose, cranberries, we're able to provide the natural polyphenols and the vitamin C. And then the gut is able to absorb that better rather than maxing out the intestinal tolerance quickly. So we know that whole vitamin C increases natural bioavailability, and that we actually need vitamin C. The interesting thing about vitamin C is that vitamin C is something that our bodies need, and it's water soluble. So unlike the fat soluble, which have a higher storage capacity, we can actually deplete our bodies of vitamin C in a couple of weeks of normal use if we're not getting a regular intake. So we need to make sure that we're continuing to have regular intake of vitamin C. Otherwise, we can actually lose that. And when we get sick, the vitamin C actually helps our bodies, and we actually need more of it because those white blood cells that are going to help whatever antigen or pathogen that's coming on board, our body is taking the vitamin C that we have and actually using it to help fight off those specific viruses. And so we need to make sure that we can actually help support that system. So we know that vitamin C actually helps, it enhances those antibodies. We just talked about that specifically. We know that it increases interferon, which is a hormone that helps kills infection. It enhances the neutrophil motility, which is a type of white blood cell that cleans things up in the body. That's what I was talking about. So if we have some vitamin C in our body, we get sick, we get a cold, something comes on, the stores that we have are actually going to move to that, so that they will be used up. And we need to make sure that we're actively able to replenish that. It's a fantastic antioxidant. So it helps counter free radical damage by providing an extra electron and help stabilize it. So basically it says, hey, look, I know that you're kind of wandering around the body. You're trying to do, figure out where you are. You're not where you're supposed to be. I'm just going to grab your hand, partner with you, and help take you out of the system. It's critical for collagen production. So we know that in the veins and the arteries, when there's arterial damage on the walls, collagen is used to repair that damage. So again, this comes back to circulation. Who knew that vitamin C was actually linked to healthy circulation, right? So if there's something that happens inside that vein or that artery, vitamin C is required because we need vitamin C to be able to make healthy collagen. And then we also know that it increases the bioavailability of and absorption of iron. So all pretty cool things when we actually look at this. Excuse me for just a moment. I just had, all right, so vitamin A. So we've kind of gone through the big hitters, right? We've gone D, NAC, glutathione, vitamin C. Let's get into the rest of these. So vitamin A. Vitamin A is one of those fat-soluble vitamins that we were just talking about, which means that it's able to travel through fat. It's able to go through the cell walls. The cell walls are made of phospholipids, which are those fatty acids, and they help protect that. So it's cool because it can actually get into those cells. And it's one vitamin with many different roles. So it's critical for cell division. So when we look at how the cells actually split and what's happening at the molecular level, vitamin A is huge here. It's critical for reproduction and immunity, and it also acts as an antioxidant. While it's known for vision, right, with the several different forms that it has for the retinol, and retinoic acid, it's also known that when you don't actually have appropriate levels of vitamin A, you can end up with some different infections. Specifically, the sinus, ear, skin, lung infections, respiratory infections are all signs of vitamin A deficiencies. And the kind of the unique thing about this is that vitamin A is actually converted into active form inside the body. So we're not actually taking the active form, it's converted in the body, and then it's actually converted in the body in the small intestine. So if you're low in vitamin A, you may actually have a challenge in your digestive tract where there may be some malabsorption issues. So just kind of one of those things to keep in the back of your mind. If you notice that you're starting to have a lot of sinus infections or ear infections or skin infections or something going on in your lungs, it may be a good idea to take a chance and look at those levels. And then we have vitamin A and immunity. So this is a study, and it's their conclusion, I thought I would just put this in here, was pretty incredible because it was talking about the role of vitamin A and immunity and how it actually works with that. And it says vitamin A has both a promoting and regulatory roles in the innate immune system and adaptive immunity. It can enhance the organism's immune function and provide enhanced defense against multiple infectious diseases. Now, this is a study where they took a couple thousand people, and then they actually monitored their different levels, and they monitored how they were actually going through things. It's absolutely crazy, but and really, really cool science. But what they found was that not only is vitamin A great as an essential vitamin and helps with our eyesight and helps with several other biological processes, but it's absolutely fantastic at helping to support a healthy immune system. All right, so let's see here. We've covered A, C, D, now we have E. So we know that vitamin E is also essential. Remember when we were talking about that one simple hack to help boost your immune system? We're starting to get into several more here. But vitamin E is amazing. There are a couple of different forms of this. They're mixed tocopherols, they're tocotrienols. A couple of years back, we actually made a switch from mixed tocopherols, even though they were clean and good. to the pure tocotrienols. And we did that because the studies have shown us that the tocotrienols, not only could we trace them from point A to point B, but they're actually 50 times more bioavailable than the mixed tocopherols, meaning that we're going to get more impact from that specific product rather than having our bodies take more time, more resources, more energy to actually process that. So vitamin E describes the 8 compounds grouped into tocopherols and tocotrienols. Each of their chemistries are different and have different effects. Now, the clinical studies have shown us that delta and gamma tocotrienols provide significant health benefits. But the tocopherols, the alpha tocopherols, can interfere with that. It's one of those things where if you have a more bioavailable product, you're going to actually be able to, your body's going to be able to absorb it, take it in, and use everything without leaving anything behind. So the generally regarded as safe Delta Gold tocotrienols are derived from the annatto plant. And they've done over 100 clinical studies. And we've seen that the cardiovascular health significantly improves with overall like lowered levels of cholesterol and triglycerides. There are incredible anti-inflammatory properties. Again, there's an anti-inflammatory thing. We're talking about oxidative stress, decreasing inflammation. We're hitting that same thing over and over again. They help protect the fatty liver or from fatty liver disease, and they help protect the liver. They help with eye health, and they also help with bone health. So we're hearing some of these same things over and over and over again. Anti-inflammatory, it lowers inflammation, helps protect the liver, helps support cardiovascular health. There seems to be a trend going on here. When we dive into a couple more things outside of your specific vitamins, we have 2 hot topics, and one is zinc and the other is selenium. Let's talk about zinc first. So zinc is kind of an interesting thing, right? It's kind of taken off. They have, there are whole companies that are based around zinc. When you start talking about Zicam and decreasing your overall flu, well, why is that? Well, zinc affects multiple parts of the immune system, not only crucial for normal cellular development and function, but it's also essential for immunity. It's essential for neutrophils and for natural killer cells. So if we're going to have our body that's well enough to be able to take care of anything that's going to show up and take that on, we need to make sure that we're able to have enough zinc for that. It's an anti-inflammatory agent. It's an antioxidant. Those are 2 things. We just saw that on the last slide. And then it helps stabilize those membranes and prevent free radicals. Just like vitamin C, it's one of those things that continues to help with that. When we look at selenium, we know that selenium affects different types of immune responses in different ways as well. Higher selenium levels have been known and clinically shown to improve both viral and non-viral loads in the overall body. So if you have a lower selenium level, you're going to have a hard time actually competing when a virus comes in. It also helps with allergies, asthma, respiratory illness, and even has some anti-cancer and anti-aging properties. There are a couple of other hot topic supplements that are out there. One is quercetin. And remember when I was talking about those bioflavonoids and polyphenols? Well, quercetin is a flavonoid found in many different plants and foods, specifically quite a few berries, apples, green tea. It's a tremendous antioxidant and anti-inflammatory agent that supports healthy circulation, lower blood sugar levels, and swelling. The interesting thing about quercetin is that there's a drug on the market right now that acts a lot like zinc in that it helps stop enzyme production of certain viruses that stop or slow replication of that specific virus. And quercetin actually has a zinc ionophore that helps stop enzyme production of certain viruses that will either stop or slow down the production of that virus, which is pretty cool. And then we have elderberry. So black elderberry has been around a long time. and it's been used to fight infections. We have several studies, elderberry extract demonstrates potent antibacterial and antiviral support against upper respiratory infections and influenza virus. Everything that we're talking about here comes back to decreasing the amount of inflammation, helping support the overall viral load, helping our bodies be able to support and protect whatever is coming into our bodies, and fend that off. And then an interesting study on this was that a review of 4 randomized control studies concluded that elderberry supplements significantly reduced upper respiratory tract infections caused by viral infections, which I thought was really interesting. This study is about 5 years old. But if you walk into any health food store, you're going to see those 2 things that are going to stand out. Now, there are a couple of other items that folks will bring up, and one of those is medicinal mushrooms. They certainly have their place. One of those are additional immune support ingredients. One other is CoQ10. We can go on and on to talk about all of these things, but let's talk about a couple of them while we look at that, because we have those beautiful mushrooms there as well. So we have over 270 species of medicinal mushrooms that have clinically been studied and are known to have immune enhancing powers. So it's bigger than just one simple thing that you can take. We know that it's clinically studied that we have well over 270 species of medicinal mushrooms to have these immune helping powers or properties. And they have been known to help with tuberculosis and acute lung infections and viral loads, many, many, many more things. Immune Assist Micron, which is one of the things that we actually have in microbiome support, uses the 6 most potent immune supporting species of medicinal mushrooms. Immune Assist Micron is known for supporting not only immune, but heart and healthy lung function. And then we have sorry, that's a typo there. BGF Immune. So BGF Immune is clinically studied immune support ingredient with high purity. So it focuses on the beta glucan produced via unique fermentation process. And then it supports healthy immune function by working on the cell's innate immune defense system. So it's basically taking the body system and ramping it up. It's one of those products we just recently added into microbiome support to make sure that we can actually support the body system in every way, shape, and form. And ultimately, this product actually enhances the body's immune response to maintain overall health and wellness. And then we have CoQ10. And CoQ10 is, something that, the folks in the white hats at Costco are passing out, the sweet little pineapple flavored cup. But it's also something that happens naturally and occurs naturally in our bodies. It's also in many of the foods that we eat. It's a fantastic antioxidant. There's that keyword again. Plays a significant role in boosting immune system and physical performance. And tissues involved in immune function are highly energy dependent. So it takes a lot of energy for our bodies to actually function and help fight off colds and viruses. And it takes a lot of energy to do that. And as a result, they require higher levels of CoQ10. So if you get sick, you may actually have to increase the levels of CoQ10 to make sure that you can actually help support that system, fight whatever's coming on a little easier. Okay, moving away from the traditional vitamins and thought to be immune things and immune support, let's move on to iodine. Now, iodine is one of these interesting things because it's been used for medical use since, for the last almost 200 years, since the early 1840s is when it was clinically recognized with the Lugol's formula. But even in the early 1800s, it's been documented that it's actually working. And so we know that iodine is important for stomach acid. We know that iodine is important for overall health. We know that iodine is important for thyroid. And we know that iodine is found in each of the trillions of cells in their body, and without adequate iodine levels, life itself isn't possible. It's so important that our FDA decided to actually add iodide to our salt that goes out to everybody across the nation. We're kind of backing away from that, with everybody moving away from sea salt and real salt and all of the different things, Himalayan sea salt. But it doesn't change the fact that iodine is critically important. And so why is iodine important? Well, iodine is required for stomach acid and many other functions in the body. But most importantly, when we're talking about immune function, it's the first line of defense against infections. And so we need to make sure that we have an adequate iodine level in our bodies so that our bodies can actually function and support the immune support that we actually need. The second thing is that if we have enough iodine and we have the cofactors help create stomach acid, then if we actually ingest anything that has anything, a specific antigen or virus, we'll have a better chance of actually killing that off. If we look at things topically, we know that iodine has been used as an antiseptic since the early 1840s. It's a super effective topical and antimicrobial disinfectant against viruses, fungi, bacteria, and protozoa. So don't take it with your fungal detox or with your probiotics. But it's works so well that it's actually still used today in surgery and wound care because of its effectiveness. It's pretty crazy how all of that works, but we actually use a Lugol's formula. And why are we actually using Lugol's formula? Well, Jean-Guillaume Auguste Lugol created this in the early 1800s as a cure for tuberculosis. And the solution contained both potassium iodide and iodine, and the body needs both. So when we actually take a look at what the body needs, we know that the thyroid uses iodide, which is one of the reasons why we ended up with the iodized table salt, because the majority of the population in the Midwest was coming up with goiters about 100 years ago. And the federal government decided they wanted to put a stop to that. But then we know that the body needs iodine and iodine to function optimally. And Lugol's formula contains both, right? Iodine and potassium iodide combined with distilled water. Now, the interesting thing about iodine is that you can't take it by itself and expect it to do its job. It actually needs additional cofactors to be able to function appropriately. And so we actually have zinc and selenium, two of the things that we just talked about, vitamin C, which is something that we also talked about, thiamine or vitamin B1, and fulvic acid. All of those things present to make sure that you have the cofactors present in this product to not only have a great solution for overall immune support, but also digestive support and stomach acid as well. We've talked a lot about cardiovascular support. And when we talk about cardiovascular support, one of the things that come to mind and should come to mind is nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is one of the main regulating factors in the body's cardiovascular system. The cool thing about Neo40 is that Neo40 Professional actually helps the body produce nitric oxide that it can't produce on its own. And as we grow older and the veins constrict or there becomes more debris, right, be it calcification in the arteries or hardening of the arteries or whatever it might be, and the health of the endothelial barrier, the lining of the inside of the blood vessels, decreases. And we need nitric oxide to make sure that that stays elastic and that it can actually function. Now, there are two ways to actually make nitric oxide. One is orally through the mouth, and then the other is through the methylation process. And if you take L-arginine can go through the nitric oxide synthase to nitric oxide. And if your body can convert that and you methylate, well, you're great. The challenge is not everybody can actually do that. And we know that 20 to 25 to 40% of the population actually have issues with methylation. And so Neo40 Professional actually gives you the broken down version of that in nitric oxide. So your body doesn't have to go through that. You can actually help support healthy circulation, healthy arterial and venous health so that your body can function at an appropriate level. And And we know that nitric oxide overall helps support healthy blood pressure levels, cardiovascular and heart health. These are the same themes that we've continued to be talking about, and promote increased circulation so we can help transport nutrients and move nutrients where they need to go in the body. Okay. So when you think about immunity, I know that in my mind, the microbiome comes into play. And, there are quite a few studies out there that say 90% comes from your microbiome, 40% comes from your microbiome, 70% comes from your microbiome. Well, I actually found 3 that said that 70% actually come from the microbiome. The bottom line is that there's a significant portion of our immune system that comes from our digestive tract. And if our digestive tract isn't in line, then we're going to have a hard time functioning. And so when we talk about the importance of the microbiome, I wanted to give you a quote from Dr. Rosenbaum. And he says, I submit to you that any disease that has an autoimmune component, whether it's Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, autism, atherosclerosis, obesity, diabetes, and any disease that you are seeing in your clinics with an immune component, the microbiome is having some effect. It's that big of a deal. And so the gut microbiome is something that's teeming with billions of viruses, bacteria, fungi that have made their way into our digestive tract. And it's a symbiotic relationship. And so it works pretty well. But occasionally, like we mentioned on one of the first slides, if it goes wrong and we get sick, then there can be a dysbiosis. And when there's that imbalance, then we need to make sure that we're actually supporting it appropriately with the appropriate flora and fauna of the digestive tract. And we know that a diverse microbiome is actually a healthy microbiome. And the studies have shown us that people with more diverse microbiomes actually have increased ability to come back from illness faster and fend off specific pathogens. And so just like a garden, our microbiome requires a similar care, attention, and nutrition. It requires the good food, the probiotics, the fertilizer fertilizer for the probiotics known as prebiotics, and then support, something to help maintain that, manage the weeds, detox the gut. And when it's not cared for, just like if I let the garden at my house go, I'm fantastic at growing weeds, but it takes quite a bit for me to actually grow something like flowers or plants that my kids really are excited about right now. And when not cared for, this dysbiosis or imbalance occurs, which is an imbalance of bacteria in the gut. It causes additional changes in food cravings, irritability, mood, and stress, not to mention overall immune systems. So for several years, we had Dr. Tennant's microbiome support and recently updated that. And we know that the microbiome support formula was designed to give you the tools to help support a healthy GI tract. But we've added additional immune and digestive support. We want to give you the digestive support because we know what a critical role it is if we actually have digestive support in that process so that we can actively help support the immune system. And so this is set to help help with leaky gut, with the intestinal wall integrity, endothelial tight junction, and the mucosal barrier environment. If you're crazy stressed, you have a lot of stress, that actually happens in the gut too. And there are actually chemical reactions that happen and can dramatically affect the gut. And so we're actually able to provide some stress management support with proven adaptogens. And then we have ingredients that are proven to promote immune system support, not only strengthening the immune support, but also helping modulation throughout the GI tract and throughout the whole body. Now, when we look at what's actually in this product, a lot of what we've just talked about is on here. So we have increased and added additional immune support. We've increased the level of anti-inflammatory agents. So those are the two things that we just talked about, which are additional immune support, anti-inflammatory agents in order to be able to support the stress load, digestion support, and then help improve healing in the GI tract and detoxification. So if we look at the big hitters here that we've talked about today, we have selenium that's actually increased. Glutamine is up, and that's an important amino acid. It's one of the building block proteins. And it's also an important part of the immune system. We have the immune assist micron, which is one of the things that we just talked about, those medicinal mushrooms, organic curcumin or turmeric. When we move over here, we've actually added in the whole vitamin C. So added in the whole vitamin C with the bioflavonoids, the polyphenols. It's not just ascorbic acid. Added in the vitamin D3, added in the N-acetylcysteine, which is one of the key products, one of the top ones that we talked about. The 1,3-beta-glucan isotate, which is the BGF immune, and the list goes on. When we take a look at the actual label, we can see that we have immune system and inflammatory response support. And as we take a look and we dive through those, it's action-packed with the immune supporting things. So if we look at things as a system from digestive support, I put the gut boot camp in here because it kind of paints that full picture. We have the microbiome support, which is designed to heal, reset, and detox the gut with the immune assist micron, the colostrum, glutathione, and prebiotics, really designed to help support that immune system. We have the probiotics, which are the food, good bacteria, the beneficial bacteria that we want to make sure that we can help proliferate. And it has the prebiotics and the probiotics in there. So the food for the good bacteria and the good bacteria, so that it can stay well. And a delivery system that helps keep it good as it actually moves, or keep it stable as it moves through the tract. And then fungal detox, which is the microbiome support, which is the fungal component. And not only do we have that in the microbiome, in the whole microbiota, we have the microbiome and the microbiome and the mycobiome, and we need to make sure that we're able to support that. The other thing, when we take a look at this, is restore. And when we look at adequate levels of vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin E, vitamin K, the zinc, the selenium, and the glutathione, those levels are represented across the board in Dr. Tennant's Restore. And it contains 22 grams of protein, comprehensive vitamins and minerals, diverse amino acid profile, and really designed to help support really designed to help support immune function. So when we look at immune function across the board, we know that immune support is possible. It's not as simple as taking 200 milligrams of zinc. Don't do that. That's not safe unless your practitioner advises you in your specific situation. But you want to make sure that you're able to approach this in a specific system. We know that vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and selenium have shown incredible immune enhancing potential. There are even clinical studies that have shown that in combination, they worked well. We know that it's a well-rounded approach with vitamins A, E, elderberry, and CoQ10, and so many others may also be beneficial, but we need to take that well-rounded approach. One of the key themes was reducing inflammation, right? Reducing inflammation, reducing oxidative stress. Healthy microbiome equals a stronger immune system. Two components that we didn't talk about, but are absolutely critical here are sleep and exercise. And sleep, exercise, and stress management are equally important. And then healthy circulation. One of the things that exercise does is help promote that circulation and push the blood through, and is absolutely fundamental for immune support. And in short, the body is complex and requires many different nutrients to support levels of immunity. And a multifaceted systemic approach is best. Thank you for your time. I'm very grateful for it. It is your body, it is your life. Ingredients do matter, and that the body never forgets how to heal itself. And when it runs correctly, it does heal itself. Thank you so much.